The Duggar family, known for their deeply held religious beliefs and strict moral code, has always maintained a strong influence over its children's personal lives, particularly when it comes to relationships. As one of the eldest daughters, Jessa Duggar was raised in an environment where courtship was closely monitored, with parents Jim Bob and Michelle playing a central role in vetting potential suitors. Their approach to relationships was rooted in conservative Christian values, emphasizing purity, obedience, and parental guidance. This framework meant that any romantic involvement was subject to scrutiny, especially during the early stages of courtship. When Jessa began spending time with Ben Sewald, a young man from outside the tight-knit community the Duggars had built around themselves, her family's natural inclination was to be cautious. Ben Sewald came from a different background, one that did not align as seamlessly with the Duggars' insular lifestyle. Unlike many of the men who had previously shown interest in the Duggar daughters, Ben was not raised within the same religious circles or under the same strict expectations. His upbringing, while still rooted in faith, did not mirror the highly structured environment the Duggars were accustomed to. This difference immediately set him apart and contributed to the family's initial wariness. Jim Bob and Michelle, ever protective of their children, were hesitant to fully accept Ben without first understanding his character, intentions, and compatibility with their daughter. Beyond cultural differences, the Duggars also harbored concerns about Ben's maturity and readiness for a serious commitment. Courtship within the Duggar household typically followed a well-defined path. Introductions were made with parental approval, interactions were carefully supervised, and engagements often occurred swiftly once a match was deemed suitable. However, Jessa and Ben's relationship did not follow this conventional timeline. Their connection developed more gradually, which led to speculation and unease among the Duggar parents. They questioned whether Ben truly understood the level of responsibility required in pursuing a relationship with one of their daughters, especially given the high expectations placed upon spouses within the family. This skepticism was not unfounded. Past experiences had shown that some suitors struggled to meet the Duggars' standards. Additionally, the family's history of media exposure meant that any new romantic involvement carried additional scrutiny, not just from within the family, but also from the public eye. With these factors in mind, the Duggars approached Ben's presence in Jessa's life with caution, carefully observing his actions and demeanor before offering their full approval. As Jessa and Ben's relationship progressed, the Duggar family remained wary, scrutinizing every interaction between them. Jim Bob and Michelle made a conscious effort to spend significant time with Ben, inviting him into their home and including him in family gatherings to gauge his behavior firsthand. During meals and social events, they observed how he engaged with Jessa, whether he showed respect toward her and the rest of the family, and if he demonstrated the kind of character traits they valued most: humility, integrity, and a strong work ethic. These assessments were not casual observations, but deliberate evaluations aimed at determining whether Ben could genuinely commit to the responsibilities that came with marrying into the Duggar family. One of the primary concerns was Ben's perceived lack of direction. While he was described as friendly and polite, some family members felt he lacked the ambition and decisiveness expected of someone seeking to marry one of their daughters. Unlike previous suitors who had clear career paths or stable financial situations, Ben was still navigating his professional goals, which unsettled the Duggars. Jim Bob, in particular, emphasized the importance of providing for a future spouse, and Ben's uncertain trajectory raised questions about his ability to fulfill that role. Additionally, there were moments when Ben appeared hesitant or overly reserved in family settings, leading some to wonder if he was overwhelmed by the intensity of the Duggar household or unsure of his own feelings for Jessa. Another source of apprehension stemmed from Ben's relatively independent nature. Having grown up outside the Duggars' tightly controlled environment, He was accustomed to making decisions on his own, which sometimes clashed with the family's expectation that major life choices, especially those concerning relationships, should involve extensive parental consultation. Jessa, having been raised with constant oversight, found herself caught between two worlds: the structured, communal decision-making of her upbringing and Ben's more individualistic approach. This dynamic occasionally led to friction, particularly when Ben hesitated to adhere to certain Duggar customs, such as seeking formal permission before making plans with Jessa or participating in traditional courtship rituals. Despite these concerns, the Duggars did acknowledge some positive qualities in Ben. He was respectful, never overtly defiant, and seemed genuinely fond of Jessa. However, his overall demeanor left room for doubt, and the family remained cautious, preferring to take things slowly rather than rush into full acceptance. Their guarded stance reflected a broader pattern within the Duggar household. When faced with uncertainty regarding a potential son-in-law, they opted for patience, ensuring that any match was thoroughly vetted before granting their blessing. As time passed, the Duggar family's perception of Ben Sewald began to shift, though the transition was neither immediate nor effortless. Initially skeptical, Jim Bob and Michelle gradually warmed to him as they witnessed his continued commitment to Jessa and his growing willingness to adapt to the family's expectations. One of the key turning points in their relationship came when Ben demonstrated a stronger sense of responsibility, particularly in his efforts to establish a stable career path. Rather than remaining indecisive about his future, he took proactive steps toward securing employment and proving that he could provide for Jessa. This newfound determination helped ease some of the concerns the Duggars had initially voiced regarding his maturity and long-term readiness for marriage. Additionally, Ben made a concerted effort to engage more meaningfully with the Duggar family, showing increased respect for their traditions and values. He became more comfortable participating in family discussions, expressing his thoughts and intentions clearly rather than appearing hesitant or withdrawn. This shift in demeanor reassured Jim Bob and Michelle that Ben was not simply going through the motions, but was genuinely invested in building a life with Jessa. His willingness to seek their guidance, rather than resisting their involvement, further solidified his standing in their eyes. Over time, they recognized that while Ben may not have come from the same background, he was making a sincere effort to align himself with the principles they held dear. A particularly significant moment in this evolving dynamic occurred when Ben formally asked for Jim Bob and Michelle's blessing before proposing to Jessa. This gesture, which adhered to the traditional courtship customs the Duggars valued, symbolized Ben's respect for their authority and reinforced his sincerity. Rather than rushing into a decision, he approached the matter with careful consideration, acknowledging the importance of familial approval. This act of humility resonated deeply with the Duggars, signaling that Ben was not only committed to Jessa, but also willing to honor the family structure she had been raised in. While not all reservations disappeared overnight, the gradual transformation in Ben's character and his consistent efforts to integrate into the Duggar family played a crucial role in shifting their perspective. By demonstrating accountability, respect, and a genuine desire to support Jessa, he earned the trust of her parents, ultimately paving the way for their full acceptance of his relationship with their daughter. The Duggar family's cautious approach to Ben Sewald was heavily influenced by their past experiences with other suitors who had pursued their daughters. Over the years, several young men had expressed interest in the Duggar women, yet not all had proven to be suitable matches. Some relationships fizzled out due to fundamental incompatibilities, while others ended abruptly after the Duggars uncovered troubling red flags. These prior encounters served as both warnings and lessons, reinforcing the family's belief that thorough vetting was essential before granting approval for any engagement. One notable example was the failed relationship between Jill Duggar and Derek Dillard. While Derek eventually became a part of the family, his early courtship with Jill was met with hesitation. At first, Jim, Bob, and Michelle were wary of his unconventional personality and the fact that he did not fit the mold of what they considered an ideal suitor. However, over time, Derek proved his devotion to Jill and demonstrated a willingness to embrace the Duggars' values, ultimately earning their blessing. This experience taught the Duggars that first impressions were not always definitive, and that character development played a crucial role in determining a person's suitability. Similarly, the short-lived romance between Jessa Duggar and Jeremy Volo, a former professional soccer player turned pastor, highlighted the importance of shared values in a relationship. Though Volo was outwardly devout and respectful, his background and interests diverged significantly from Jessa's upbringing, leading to complications that ultimately ended their engagement. This reinforced the Duggars' belief that even seemingly compatible individuals might struggle to navigate the unique challenges of being part of their family. Such experiences underscored the necessity of ensuring that any potential spouse was not only personally aligned with their beliefs, but also capable of adapting to the demands of life within the Duggar household. These past relationships shaped the family's approach to Ben Sewald, making them more vigilant in assessing his character and motivations. While Ben initially exhibited behaviors that mirrored those of previous suitors who had not worked out, his gradual growth and commitment to Jessa distinguished him from those who had faltered under scrutiny. The Duggars' collective memory of past disappointments ensured that they would not rush into approval, instead opting for a measured and observant stance until Ben consistently demonstrated his dedication to Jessa and their shared future. The Duggar family's intense scrutiny of potential suitors is deeply intertwined with their high-profile status, stemming largely from their reality television show 19 Kids and Counting. For over a decade, the Duggars lived under constant media exposure, with their parenting methods, religious beliefs, and family dynamics scrutinized by millions of viewers. This visibility created immense pressure on the family to uphold a specific image, one that aligned with their conservative values and public persona. As a result, any romantic developments involving their children were not merely private matters, but events that carried implications for the family's reputation. Jim, Bob, and Michelle Duggar, acutely aware of this reality, approached their daughters' relationships with heightened caution. They knew that any misstep, a rushed engagement, a controversial match, or a breakup could become fodder for tabloids, talk shows, and online commentary. This concern was particularly pronounced following the scandal that rocked the family in 2015, when Josh Duggar's past misconduct resurfaced, leading to widespread criticism and the eventual cancellation of their television series. In the aftermath, the Duggars became even more protective of their remaining public image, carefully managing how their children's relationships unfolded in the public sphere. For Ben Sewald, stepping into this environment meant not only winning the approval of Jessa's parents, but also navigating the weight of public expectation. Unlike many suitors who had previously pursued the Duggar daughters, Ben entered the picture at a time when the family was more guarded than ever. His courtship with Jessa was inevitably viewed through the lens of past controversies, with both supporters and critics watching closely to see whether he would prove to be a stabilizing presence or another source of turmoil. This added layer of pressure likely contributed to the family's initial hesitance, as they sought to ensure that any future son-in-law would not only be a good match for their daughter, but also someone who could withstand the scrutiny of a public audience. Ultimately, the Duggars' cautious approach to Ben Sewald was shaped by a combination of personal, cultural, and external factors. Their deeply ingrained values dictated a slow, methodical courtship process, while their history with previous suitors reinforced the need for careful evaluation. Simultaneously, the realities of their public life necessitated an extra layer of vigilance, ensuring that any romantic developments aligned with the image they wished to maintain. While Ben's relationship with Jessa eventually earned the family's full support, the journey to that point was marked by careful deliberation, an outcome of both personal conviction and the complexities of life in the spotlight. Joy Anna Duggar's first birth marked a significant departure from the deeply ingrained traditions of the Duggar family, particularly in terms of medical choices and birth location. The Duggars, known for their strict adherence to conservative Christian values, have long followed a specific set of guidelines when it comes to childbirth. For decades, Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar emphasized natural, at-home births without pain medication, a practice they extended to all of their children who had become parents themselves. However, Joy Anna's decision to give birth in a hospital with medical assistance deviated from this established norm, raising questions about how her personal beliefs and circumstances influenced this choice. The Duggar family's approach to childbirth has been widely documented, especially through their reality television show 19 Kids, and counting. Each of the Duggar siblings' births was carefully planned within the family's framework, often taking place at home or in a birthing center under the supervision of midwives. Pain relief was typically avoided, as the family viewed natural childbirth as a testament to faith and discipline. This philosophy was not only a personal belief, but also a public statement that reinforced their image as a devout, tightly knit household governed by traditional values. Given this backdrop, Joy Anna's decision to opt for a hospital birth with medical intervention stood out as an unexpected shift in the family's long-standing practices. The significance of this deviation lies in what it reveals about Joy Anna's autonomy and evolving perspectives on motherhood. While the Duggar family has always placed a strong emphasis on obedience and conformity, Joy Anna's choice suggests a growing willingness among the younger generation to make independent decisions regarding their health and parenting styles. This moment became a focal point for discussions about generational change within the family, prompting both supporters and critics to speculate on the broader implications of such a shift. For years, the Duggar family has maintained a consistent and highly publicized approach to childbirth, rooted in their religious convictions and commitment to natural living. Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, parents to 19 children, have long advocated for home births attended by midwives rather than doctors in a hospital setting. Their reasoning is twofold. First, they believe that childbirth is a natural process that should be experienced without medical interference whenever possible. Second, they view the use of pain medication during labor as something to be avoided unless absolutely necessary. This philosophy has been passed down to their children, many of whom have followed suit by choosing midwife-assisted deliveries in non-hospital environments. In addition to avoiding hospitals, the Duggars have historically refrained from using epidurals or other forms of pain relief during labor. Instead, they rely on breathing techniques, prayer, and support from family members to manage the intensity of childbirth. This approach aligns with their broader lifestyle, which emphasizes self-reliance, modesty, and spiritual endurance. By adhering to these principles, the Duggars have cultivated a distinct identity, one that sets them apart from mainstream expectations surrounding pregnancy and delivery. Their televised experiences have further reinforced this image, showcasing multiple births that take place in comfortable yet unconventional settings, often with siblings present to provide encouragement. Given this history, Joy Anna Duggar's decision to give birth in a hospital represents a clear break from the family's well-established norms. Unlike her siblings, who have largely followed their parents' model of childbirth, Joy Anna chose a more conventional medical route. Her preference for a hospital setting, where trained professionals could monitor both her and the baby's health, signaled a shift in priorities, placing medical safety and comfort above the family's long-standing tradition of home births. This divergence raised questions about whether younger Duggar generations are beginning to reassess their upbringing in light of modern medical advancements and personal preferences. Several factors contributed to Joy Anna Duggar's decision to give birth in a hospital rather than following the Duggar family's traditional approach. One of the primary influences was her personal health concerns, which made a hospital setting a more viable option. Throughout her pregnancy, Joy Anna reportedly experienced complications that necessitated closer medical monitoring than what could be provided in a home birth environment. These concerns may have included issues such as gestational diabetes, high blood pressure, or other risk factors that made a hospital birth a safer choice for both mother and child. In contrast to previous Duggar pregnancies, where minor complications were typically managed at home with the help of midwives, Joy-Anna's situation required more advanced medical intervention, making a hospital the most logical and responsible option. Beyond health considerations, Joy-Anna's marriage to Austin Forsyth introduced another layer of influence into her decision-making process. Unlike the Duggar family's deeply ingrained views on childbirth, Austin came from a background that did not emphasize home births or the avoidance of medical interventions. As someone outside the Duggar household, he likely encouraged a more flexible approach to labor and delivery, prioritizing his wife's well-being over strict adherence to tradition. His support played a crucial role in Joy-Anna's choice to seek professional medical care, reinforcing the idea that individual circumstances should dictate birthing decisions rather than rigid family expectations. Additionally, Joy-Anna's exposure to different perspectives on childbirth may have shaped her mindset. As she matured and interacted with people beyond the Duggar family circle, she may have encountered alternative viewpoints that challenged the notion that home births were inherently superior. Medical professionals, friends, or even online resources might have provided her with information that led her to question the risks associated with non-hospital deliveries. This broader awareness, combined with her own health needs, ultimately contributed to her decision to prioritize a hospital birth over continuing the family's customary practices. Joy-Anna Duggar's decision to give birth in a hospital sparked a wave of reactions from fans, critics, and media outlets, each interpreting the move through different lenses. Many longtime supporters of the Duggar family expressed surprise, noting that previous generations had consistently followed the home birth model. Some fans speculated that Joy-Anna's choice signified a broader shift within the family, suggesting that younger members might be gradually distancing themselves from their parents' strict ideologies. Others saw it as a reflection of changing attitudes toward healthcare, particularly in light of increased awareness about maternal safety and medical advancements in obstetrics. Conversely, critics of the Duggar family seized upon the hospital birth as evidence of the impracticality of their long-held traditions. Detractors argued that the family's insistence on home births without pain relief had often prioritized ideology over medical necessity, and Joy-Anna's experience served as a counterpoint to those rigid beliefs. Some commentators pointed to past incidents involving Duggar pregnancies that had resulted in complications, highlighting the potential risks of eschewing hospital care in favor of home births. Media coverage of Joy-Anna's hospital delivery often framed it as a turning point, questioning whether future Duggar siblings would follow suit, or if this was merely an isolated case. Ultimately, the public discourse surrounding her decision underscored broader debates about personal choice, medical responsibility, and the evolving dynamics within one of America's most recognizable large families. Joy-Anna Duggar's decision to give birth in a hospital raises important questions about how future generations of the Duggar family will approach childbirth. Historically, the family has maintained a strict adherence to home births and minimal medical intervention, but Joy-Anna's choice signals a potential shift in perspective. If subsequent siblings opt for similar medical accommodations based on individual health needs, it could indicate a broader trend toward personalization rather than rigid adherence to tradition. This evolution may reflect a growing recognition that medical decisions should be tailored to each person's unique circumstances rather than dictated solely by familial customs. However, whether this shift becomes a widespread pattern remains uncertain. Some Duggar siblings have already followed the traditional model, reinforcing the likelihood that others may continue doing so. Ultimately, the balance between upholding family traditions and embracing medical advancements will likely depend on each couple's personal beliefs and health considerations.